Hello and welcome to another episode of the Breathe Better podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about um, self worth, self value, a little bit about teaching sort of stuff as well, and imposter syndrome, and a couple of different things that have sort of come up in my journey of teaching so far. And yeah, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is this sort of idea of self worth. So, how much we feel that we deserve the things that we're sort of seeking or the things that we want. Um, and this is a bit of a tricky one because we can want something. Like for myself, I really wanted to be a yoga teacher, and I really wanted to follow all of this through, and this is what I wanted my career to be, was to be an acts of service for helping people with yoga in any way, shape, or form, through the breath or through movement or through the spiritual sides of it as well. But when I first started teaching, and only even recently, I still find it difficult to promote myself. And I'm sure many, if you're a self-employed person or someone who has to promote themselves in any way, shape, or form, you'll know that it can be difficult, because how do you like shout and scream your name without feeling really egotistical, and that like it's like the show's just about you, and it's not. It's about what you're offering. But I really struggle to market myself in this way, and I'm finally coming to a place where I'm comfortable. I'm getting more confident in the act of doing so, and a big part of that for myself is the one, I know I'm a fucking good teacher. Like I understand what I'm doing, and I really I trust that for the first time in almost 4 years. I know that I am a good teacher. Like I fully believe that. Like yes, I can make mistakes, and yes, I don't get everything right, as I've said in previous episodes, but I know that I am good. I know that I try really hard. I know I center around the person coming into the class. Like I know I'm offering options, um, and I'm taking care, and I'm making sure that the people coming to my classes are, they feel valued, they feel cared for, they feel like I am preparing them for the stuff that's coming, and I'm giving them, and I'm teaching in the way that I have fully sort of embodied this practice, and the way that I practice myself. And that's the biggest thing, is the fact that I'm teaching what I practice myself. I'm not teaching what I've seen other people do, or I'm not teaching what I've been told to teach. I have previously, and it just kind of lands flat, and it doesn't feel right, and it creates a lot of sort of mental tension and sort of ping-ponging back and forth of like, am I doing this right? Why am I teaching in this way when I don't even practice this myself? But and I think I'm finally coming to a nice firm ground of it. Like it might sound a little bit egotistical here, but like yeah, I know I'm a fucking good teacher, and I know that because the people that are coming back are seeing benefits, and they're coming back. you know, and that's probably a very easy way to tell if you're a good teacher or not. If they don't resonate with you, or if they don't think you're a good teacher, they won't come back. And not everyone who doesn't come back isn't gonna think that you're good. They might think you're a wonderful teacher, but they just vibe better with someone else, or they just prefer someone else's way of teaching. It's not that you're worse or they're better. It's just we're different. Um, so I guess in a way, I'm just saying that you know people tend to there's people who like the way that I teach. It doesn't mean I'm a better teacher than anyone else by any means, shape, or form, but there is people out there who really like the way that I teach, and that's fantastic. And that in itself, and within that, sorry, has made me feel like I'm doing okay. Like I'm managing this thing. Like I can feel like there's quite a good value to the stuff that I'm offering, and that's what matters. Is that people are getting benefits, sorry, and that I'm able to stand firm in the fact that I know that um I've gone off topic again, or have I? No, I know that there's a word that I'm looking for that I can't think of. It's gone, completely gone. Anyway, that I know that like hell, totally gone. Anyway, I know people are getting value out of my classes, and um, yeah. To start with, when I was teaching, I didn't know this. I didn't believe this. I didn't. Well, I wasn't sure if people were going to be getting anything out of the classes, or if I was good enough, or if I was like if I knew enough modifications, or I had so many anxieties in my head about like how could I be better, and how like I'm a big thinker, so I was always thinking like, oh, well, what happens if someone comes in and asks about this particular pose with this injury? And now I didn't know an awful lot about injuries, and I'm very lucky in the sense that I teach in a studio where it's ran by a physiotherapist, so I can just ask anything that I need to her. But that's the thing is like I can also say that I don't know, and I more than often that I not if someone comes to me with an injury, I can, of course I can suggest certain postures that might not sit so well with them, and I can offer a modification, or also to just do their own thing because they know their body better than me, so and their own autonomy and stuff like that. So they absolutely they know better than I do when it comes to injuries and things like that. But the point being that is it's okay to say that I don't know certain things, and I had to get comfortable with that, and I still have to get comfortable with that. And as teachers, we're expected to know, or we're not expected to know everything. We think we're expected to know everything, and we're not. All of the things that I've ever worried about like if someone's ever going to spontaneously ask me a question about yoga in the 1600s, like no one's going to fucking ask that. No one's going to ask that. Like I like to read into history and tradition and philosophy and all that stuff because I think it's interesting. Most of the people who come to my class probably don't. They probably don't because I talk about it a lot, and you can see the faces go sorry, faces go blank, because they just want to focus on other stuff, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Like there's a few people I teach who have actually got really interested into the background of yoga and tradition and stuff, and I can offer that to them now because I have an understanding of it. And the thing is, if I don't have an understanding of something, there's nothing wrong with referring someone to someone else. You know what I mean? I'm quite happy to refer someone to another teacher or to a physio or to a website or this or that if I feel like they're going to get better information there than through me. And I guess having all of these things, having like getting comfortable with all of these things, like for example, one, like not knowing that acknowledging that I don't know everything, and then two, being able to refer someone to someone else, and like three is that being confident that what I'm teaching is what I practice. So I'm comfortable with it, I'm confident in it, and I'm not trying to reciprocate something that someone else has just regurgitated to me, like a class script or whatever. And I'm using my own words in the class. I'm not just reading off like a notebook word for word. And that takes time. Like I'm only just at the point now where I can actually teach a class without having to constantly refer to my notes for what pose is coming next, and actually teach off my own autonomy and stuff that and also always being able to adapt the class. Like I'm finally in this space where I can adapt to class if someone need something else, and I'm very comfortable in like spending a bit of time with someone individually and not worrying about what the rest of the class is doing, because some people need a bit more attention for some class postures than others, and that's fine. So there's a lot, and I don't think I was ever fully prepared for how much I had to get comfortable with when it came to teaching. And I guess it's the same with any movement practice, and I don't want to just say yoga's movement practice, but with anything like this is there's so much to get used to, and there's so much business stuff that you have to get used to, and people stuff that you have to get used to, and I'm not a people person like at all. So I remember when I taught my first class and I was sitting in front of like all of these people, or not all of these people, a couple of people, and I was like, oh fuck, now I have to talk to you. Like I hate talking in front of people, in front of groups, or I always did. Now I actually quite like it, and I feel quite sort of powered by the fact that I can do it, because it's a big turnaround from how I used to be and the person that I used to be, and I genuinely feel a lot more confident nowadays than I did before because of all of this exposure and just like having to do it. So when it comes to self-worth and like how much I feel like I deserve to be valued as a teacher, for example, and kind of trying to get back to what I was talking about before, is that I do believe and I do feel that I deserve to be a teacher and I deserve this as a career. Now, when I first started teaching, I probably, if someone was to ask me that, I probably wouldn't have fully agreed at all. Like, oh, do you think you deserve this, or do you think you are um, worthy enough of this role? That's probably a better way to put it. But I would have said no. Like, genuinely, I probably would have said no. Like, I don't know enough, or I would have come up with this or that. Like, yeah, I guess, but I'm just not quite there yet. Or like, I need to know this, and I need to do this, and then I need to study this first, and then I'll think I'll be okay. And I need to know how to deal with this person or that person, and that's just the way that my brain works. And it's probably a lot of people probably think quite similar. Like when they come into any new job or this or that they kind of can't believe, it feels a little bit surreal that they've managed to get into. Maybe it's your dream job or career or just something that you're really interested in, and it feels a bit surreal, like you shouldn't be there. You know, that imposter syndrome starts to kick in, and it happens, and we have to navigate it in our own way. Um, and you know, most of the time, if not all of the time, none of the worries that you have will come true. None of the anxieties that you tell yourself, or the stories that you tell yourself about not being good enough, or like me, like, oh, what if someone comes in and asks about fucking yoga in the 1600s, or like, you know, what coloured fucking clothes did Patanjali wear? Like, I don't know, and I don't need to know. But you can find that stuff. You can't find out about potential, obviously, but you can. You know, you get where I'm coming from. Like, we have to get comfortable admitting that we don't know, and we have to get comfortable with the fact that we'll never know everything, and we have to get comfortable with the fact that sometimes it's just better to say that we don't know, and like, we can point you in the direction of someone who does. There's nothing wrong with referrals. I think it's really important. Like, we're all in this together. We shouldn't be seeing other teachers or other people as competitors. Like, we all want the same thing. We all want people to practice yoga. We all want people to like find value in this tradition because it's helpful. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So yeah, back to self-worth. It's definitely a long game. Like it, and you know, I'm finally starting to get to a point where I do fully feel confident in what I'm doing as well. Now, this is another aspect of this, is like getting confident with the whole like umbrella of yoga. Now, when I first started teaching, I remember thinking like, I'm just going to teach the movement stuff and without all of that spiritual nonsense. But you cannot separate the spiritual aspects of yoga from yoga. It is then just not yoga. It's just a movement practice, and it falls flat. And it fell flat in a lot of my classes because I wasn't sharing quite a large part of my own like stuff of yoga. Like, I was only sharing the very small portion of it, um, which doesn't sit right. It didn't sit right with me, so it didn't feel good, and it felt a bit like it just didn't quite sit well. So it took a while for me to get confident um, in the stuff that I was teaching, and to talk about like meditation, and to talk about breath work, and to talk about philosophy and this and that, and having beliefs, because for some reason I felt like as a man I can't have beliefs. And like, it was called, like, to give you an example, when I used to say that I practiced yoga, um one of the things that used to get said to me as a response was that I bet you only do that, how do I say this in a polite way, I bet you only do yoga so that you're flexible enough. There's not really a PG way to say it, but essentially to suck yourself off or to give yourself a blowjob. And I thought, well, no, like, what the hell is that? What the hell kind of a fucking thing to say is that? Like, you only do yoga to do that, and it's just a load of nonsense, like absolute fucking nonsense. And it used to really piss me off, and I didn't even have an answer for it because I wasn't confident enough in myself to like speak up. Like, I just make some witty, stupid comment or something back, and it was like, what the hell is that? Like, really? So finding that confidence in myself that and standing my ground of like, yeah, I'm a fucking pretty spiritual person. Like, yes, I meditate. Like, yes, I do breath work. And I don't fucking care what you think about it. For some reason, I had this. It was this male stigma around it. Like, it'll make me less of a man because I do all of this stuff and because I have my own beliefs and because I'm a spiritual person. Like, that's fucking bullshit. And it held me back so much just thinking about that and like not integrating all of these aspects of yoga that I hold really dear to myself and not sharing that in my classes and my offerings to start with. And I'm only getting comfortable still now with all of that. And I think that's important to acknowledge, is that it's a journey, and it's we're not going to get it right to start with. But and confidence has always been an issue for me. So of course I'm going to have issues with sharing these, like, what I would consider to be vulnerable aspects of my practice and stuff back then, because I was in a vulnerable place, because of the beliefs that I had. And some people will have different beliefs and some people have different vulnerabilities, and that's just the way it is. But those were mine, and it used to infuriate me, the things that people used to say, because I was a man who practiced yoga, which was considered like, quote, a girly thing, end quote, like, which is a load of fucking shite, to be honest with you. But it really used to piss me off. And it was interesting because once I became a teacher and said like, oh, I'm actually a yoga teacher, those comments seemed to stop, because it was almost like I was, quote, once again, an authoritative figure, end quote, on it, because I was a teacher and I wasn't just someone who practiced it. It was, like, what the hell? Is it because it was seen as like I don't know, like, yeah, an authoritative figure, so there's a bit more respect about it, being a man doing it, because I can teach other people to do it, as opposed to just someone who goes and practices it. Like, I don't fucking know. I think this whole men are just fucking weird, and like, that's a very blanket statement, but you know what I mean. This aspect of masculinity is very fucking weird, where we feel like we're not comfortable in our own skin because someone else might see what we're doing or whatever, and I just think it's fucking nonsense, and it really annoys me. But anyway, enough about that. So, as I was saying, I was talking a little bit about not feeling like we know enough as well before, and that's something we have to get comfortable with. We have to get comfortable with saying that we don't know. And as I say, there's only been a few occasions for myself that I have ever had to say that I don't really know, because the questions that you think you're going to get asked, you're never going to get asked them. You're never going to get asked. And yeah, you can only prepare yourself for so much. It's like leaving the house. You can't wrap yourself up in bubble wrap and walk out the house because you think you're going to get, like, a cyclist going to run into you, or like the branch is going to fall off a tree and smack you in the face. Like, it's just, you can only prepare yourself for so much. Yeah, so we just have to get confident in what we do know, teach from an embodied place, which is something my teacher Steph Wall always used to say was about teaching authentically and teaching from an embodied place. And you know what, I actually get it now. It's taken a long time, but I'm starting to actually fucking get it. And thank God, because it used to bug me. I was like, how can I be authentic when I don't really know who I am? Yeah, and I always used to think like, oh, no one's coming to my classes because I'm not a happy-go-lucky, really smiley person. Like, I'm depressed. Like, I was really depressed, and I couldn't pretend to be happy anymore. I was sick of like putting on a fucking smile and doing this and that. So yeah, my classes were a little bit like, just, it's not like I was talking about my own stuff in my classes, but it was just, I couldn't be that happy, like, jumpy, energetic person. And I guess I was not trying to be, but I couldn't find my place. It didn't feel like there was a place for this really depressed and sad, and like unmotivated and just finding it really difficult kind of teacher. Like, there wasn't space for that, because it was after COVID, and like there was all of these online studios, and like, how do you compete with that when everything's online and you're just a tiny little fish in a massive fucking pond full of really fancy fish who have lots of money behind them, and, well, or whatever. But yeah, like, how the fuck do you compete with that? So that just fed into it and fed into my own narrative of like, I'm not good enough and stuff like that, because I couldn't be the happy-go-lucky person. I was just a depressed teacher, and I still am. I just have medication now to make myself feel a lot better, and it does help. But also I'm just teaching more authentically. That's the difference. I'm not trying to teach someone else's stuff. So I draw a lot of inspiration from funnily enough, a yoga studio that I used to practice with online, and I've never had the what's the word, privilege of practicing with them in person or studying with them in person yet. It's something that I'm going to be sort of looking into in the next wee while, because they're from the US. But I really like the way that they teach vinyasa, and the way that they cue, and the way that they inform people how to move their bodies. And I loved it. I loved the freedom in their practice, and just the freedom of movement, and just how it made me feel. I absolutely loved their classes, and I still do. I still think really, really highly of all of the people who taught under that umbrella studio. So the studio was called Commune Yoga, if you were interested, and they're based in Seattle or something. But they were fucking amazing. The woman and the guy who sort of not orchestrated, but sort of founded it, were just I drew such a deep amount of inspiration from them both. And especially the woman, Carling Harps, if you're interested in looking at her, she's a very, very interesting woman and really inspirational as well. And she just knows what she's talking about. And it's just, yeah, I drew a lot of inspiration from them. But how do you find the difference between drawing inspiration from someone and just trying to be a carbon copy? You know? And I guess for a long time I did try to be like a carbon copy, and I tried to be a carbon copy of my other teacher, Steph Wall, and anyone else. It gets hard to go to classes when you become a teacher. So, the few classes that you do go to, you kind of think oh, I really like that, so I'm going to try and teach in that way. Or I actually even tried, I actually found myself, essentially impersonating someone else's voice at one point. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? How is that teaching authentically? That's me saying something in someone else's fucking voice. What the hell is going on? But it's because I really thought it really resonated with me, and I really liked the way that he taught. And for some reason, I decided to completely replicate that. No, that's not right. Obviously, we know that's not right. Bollocks. I have no right to copy someone else. Can I draw inspiration from what they say, and how they cue, and how they move, and how they teach people to move, and how they inform the movement practice, and how they inform the meditative practice, and the sort of contemplative and reflective side of it? Absolutely. Can I draw some inspiration from that? Can I carbon copy it? Fuck no, absolutely not. And I wouldn't want anyone to copy the stuff that I do either, to be perfectly honest, because why? That's not the point. Teach something that means something to you. Teach from what mean teach from yourself. Don't teach from someone else. And this goes for life as well. Especially nowadays, we have so much ability to compare ourselves with others. I didn't have a phone until I was 10, and I only got it because I had Snake on it, to be perfectly honest, and it was a fucking sick game, so I really enjoyed it. But anyway, nowadays everyone's growing up with social media on their phones, and we can all see what everyone's wearing, what everyone's doing, what everyone's eating all the fucking time, and it's not good for us. We have to take a step back from that, and it's too easy to compare ourselves to others. It's too easy to compare our lives to someone else's. And actually, interestingly, I'm going to pull this back to a little bit of Patanjali's yoga. So Patanjali actually, I can't go quote for quote because I don't have the copy of the sutras with me, but he talks about discernment, and we have to be able to discern facts from knowledge, and right knowledge from wrong knowledge. And I got told a very nice analogy, or not analogy, I don't know the word for it, but I'll try and relay it back to you. So essentially, how do we discern right knowledge from wrong knowledge, or how do we discern right knowledge? So one would be through perception, through our eyes. Say this is in the description that was given to me was there's a fire on a mountain. How do we know there's a fire on the mountain? Because we can see it with our eyes. We can see fire, we can see burning, we can see smoke. Yeah? And then the second way of understanding this would be you can see someone else comes along and they see smoke on a mountain, and they assume there's a fire, because you can't have smoke without fire. Now, the third way of knowing that there is a fire on the hill is because someone has told you there is a fire on the hill. Do you know that to be absolute right knowledge? No. Um, and this does relate to how we can compare to others. Like, we see snippets of other people's lives, so we're essentially everything we see on Instagram and through social media and Facebook and this and that is the third type. Yeah, so we're okay. We're being shown something, but we're also being told something. So yeah, there's that first example of like we see someone, I don't know, so a snippet of someone's life, and we then assume that their whole life is this fantastic, like really joyful thing because that's all they share. So we're led to believe that their life is completely fantastic and this and that because that's what we've been shown and that's what we have been led to believe. So we need to use a bit of rationality in the fact that like we can discern that it's absolutely not. We know their life is not absolutely like that all the time because that there's no fucking way. No one's that happy all the time, for example. And we need to stop comparing ourselves to those standards. We're the ones imposing those standards on ourselves. And you know what? We have to take responsibility for our own actions and our own reactions as well. So if we see something and we think, "Oh, I want to be like that person," well, why? Why do you want to be like that? It's because you feel insecure about something, or is it because I feel insecure? Like with me and this teacher, like fucking relaying his own words in his own voice, it's because I felt insecure in my own teachings and I liked the way he was taught, so I thought I could be a carbon copy of him, and that leads me to a very inauthentic place, and it distances me further from being me, which I absolutely do not need any more of. I've had a whole fucking life of it. I want to be me. I want to be me fully, wholeheartedly, and absolutely. And I think we need to, even if we have to like recite a mantra about that, like wake up in the morning, like today I am going to be me. I am going to embody myself. You know, I am going to fully embrace me as I am. And yoga teaches a lot about acceptance as well, and like how we accept the good with the bad. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but like we have to acknowledge all of the shadows of ourselves, all of the things that we don't like. And I've talked to a little bit about that in these podcasts as well. It's like I can be really judgmental, and I fucking hate that. I don't like it. I really don't. Like I fucking hate it. But I, unfortunately, at the moment, it can be a part of me. Like, is that I'm judgmental? I'm not happy about it. Of course, I'm not. I don't want to be a judgmental person, and I have to work to to deal with that. But I have to accept it. I can't just say that. I'm not. I'm not a judgmental person. I have to accept that shitty part of me is a part of me. Like, I just have to. So yeah, I do. And this actually leads me into my final point. Somehow, this all seems to be going swimmingly today for some reason. Anyway, so the other day I done a Reiki level 1 course, and I'm really, really excited about Reiki. It's something I've been curious about for a while, but really excited to get into the personal practice element of it, like being attuned and stuff. And I actually got attuned from my first yoga teacher as well, Caroline Foster, who runs the Yoga Den in East London, and wonderful, wonderful teacher. So thank you, Caroline. Wonderful, really good, and it makes me very happy to have learned Reiki from you as well. Now, one thing she shared was a turds and roses exercise. Like turds, obviously, being what do we not like about ourselves, and roses being what do we like about ourselves. Now, this for the first time, I've done this exercise before a long time ago when I first started counselling. And reflecting back on it, it was quite a weird type of counselling. But anyway. Back then, I did not really like anything about myself. I was in a very dark place, didn't see the world for as it was. Just everything was like, dark, grey, blah, like life shit, fucking this and that. I don't like anything about myself. I'm a prick, this, that, and the other. Nothing's worth anything, and I'm not worth anything, right? So I don't deserve anything good because I'm a shit person and blah, blah, blah. None of this was true, of course. This is just what I was believing. And anyway, so I had like nothing in the roses part, and I had a lot in the turd section, shall we say. And then this time in the Reiki level one course, so this would be for a time frame sort of purpose, because for some reason I really like time frames in my head. 6 years later, yeah, 6 years ago, I started counseling and all of this sort of therapeutic stuff, and reflecting on myself and contemplating on the self, and just trying to, one, accept myself, but also try and grow. And so yeah, 6 years later, fast forward to now, and you know what? There was a couple of things I didn't like that I wrote down, but there was a lot more things that I did like about myself that I wrote down, like almost double. And that's a fucking shock. It was an absolute shock. And all of the things that I didn't like, I can absolutely come to accept. Absolutely. And can I have compassion for myself and patience in the fact that some of the ones that I don't like me being judgmental, I can work on? Like, yeah, of course I can fucking work on it. And can I forgive myself nowadays? Like, yeah, absolutely I can forgive myself. And you know why that is? Is because I'm leading or trying to live the life that I actually want to live. I'm not hiding behind my addictions. I'm not hiding away from myself. I'm not hiding away from the world, being scared about living the life that I want to live. I'm trying to actively live it. That's the difference. And there's a lot of other very important things in there as well, like therapy and, growth and stuff. Um, but yeah, so there, like, fantastic. So if you're interested in reflection, then yeah, why don't you write down like a couple of things you like about yourself and a couple of things you don't like about yourself, and have a look at it. And you know what? Sometimes the things that you do like about yourself can also be things that actually can turn into things that you don't like about yourself, and then vice versa. Some things that you don't like about yourself could in turn be something that you can like about yourself. Maybe there's a positive aspect to that, and it's about accepting both. We're not all fucking perfect. We have good, we have bad, we have this, we have that, and it's just about accepting who we are, and all of our flaws, all of our likes, all of our dislikes, and just we're one little package in a big, big, vast world. So, and the last thing I want to leave you with is a mindfulness practice. So this is actually something that I shared on the Reiki level 1 as well. We were talking about grounding exercises and stuff like that. So this is a really nice way that I like to ground myself and bring myself back into the sort of present moment and take myself out of my head. So I'm like a child when it comes to going to the beach. I live very close to the beach, and every time I go, I always bring back a stone or a shell or this and that, or a multitude of shells and stones. And actually, when I was out of a job for a few months recently, I was going to the beach every day and just trying to get outside, and I started collecting sea glass. Apparently, you're not legally allowed to collect sea glass, but anyway, collecting sea glass and actively looking through the sand for bits of like nice glass and sea glass and bits and bobs and pottery. Like, oh my god, I found such a joy, finding like pottery ceramics with like the blue kind of design, oriental designs and stuff on it. Oh, amazing. Anyway, so I would take stuff home. And one practice that I got taught a long, long time ago, a mindfulness practice that I got taught, was getting to know something. Like, and for example, the one that I talked about the other day was like a shell, right? So I'll hold like a stone or a shell. Let's talk about a shell for this instance. I'll hold a shell that I've picked up from the beach, and I'll look at it, and I'll notice how it feels in my hand, and I'll notice how it looks, and I'll look at all of the holes and the bits and the bobs and like the shape of it, and I'll feel the texture of it, and you'll think about it, and you'll like, oh, how does it feel like when I put it on this sand or this? Sounds really weird, but like, just how does it feel? What's the texture of it? How does it feel in your fingers? How does it feel against your skin? Like, what does it look like? What do you think lived in it? Like, that's the fucking weird thing. Is like, this shell used to be a living thing, and what's mad is that it still lives on in my hand, and it's creating thoughts in a live being of reflecting on it, and like, that's fucking mad. How old do you think that shell is? Like, I don't know. Where did it come from? I don't fucking know. But isn't that cool? How much you can deeply appreciate what was this living form and is now in your hand, in your home, giving you a sense of presence. And I think that's really fucking powerful and really cool to try and appreciate. Um, yeah, so try it. If you're one of those little children who goes out and walks, not obviously not an actual little child, but like if you're curious like a child and you go out and pick stones and bring them home, get to know what it is you're holding. Like, feel it in your hand, feel the temperature. How does it feel? How does the texture feel? Like, how many little holes does it have? Like, what do you think caused that big crack on it? Or like, what do you think caused this or that? Or like, contemplate it, like, admire it, appreciate where it's come from, and appreciate the value that it can still have even after it's no longer considered to be a living thing. It's just a shell, literally just a shell of something that used to live. So appreciate that. And that is where I'm going to leave you today, with that little mindfulness practice about appreciation. And I think that all ties in really well. I'm actually really happy with how this podcast has gone. I feel like I've managed to stay on topic and all of that other stuff for the first time ever, potentially, but who cares if I don't. So, once again, thank you very much for listening, and I will be back in your ears soon. I'm not sure talking about what, but I will be back in your ears soon. So thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.